Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. This past weekend, a big recruiting weekend for Tennessee. I think they were able to move the needle a little bit, maybe on a five-star edge rusher, Jared Smith. Is he trending to Tennessee? No. Am I ready to pick Tennessee? No, but I think Tennessee gave him some things to think about. I think he said himself that Tennessee is way higher on my list than people realize. Just a big weekend for Tennessee. I think they've been the constant for David Sanders. I think they continue to lead for David Sanders, but then they roll right into the On3 Elite Series event down in Nashville. Some of the top players in the class of 25 come together, giving George McIntyre more of an opportunity to peer recruit. He's able to talk to guys like David Sanders. He's able to recruit guys like Travis Smith, a top 100 wide receiver. But again, big momentum coming out of the weekend. I saw this on Twitter. GoVols247 says VIP Intel new crystal ball picks. Updates on top targets after 865 live. Now, this article, Ryan Callahan of GoVols247 put in a couple of crystal ball predictions. One of those should come as absolutely no surprise. Four-star cornerback Onus Conan Banny called Tennessee the clear-cut leader coming out of 865 Live. I made a video on him earlier in the week if you want to go back and catch up with that. But also another crystal ball prediction from Ryan Callahan is for four-star interior offensive lineman Nick Moore, an in-state prospect. Tennessee kind of late to the game when it comes to recruiting him. Just recently offered, had him in town. Tennessee seemed to pick up some serious momentum, making Nick Moore a priority. What I like, he hit things off with David Sanders, right? The five-star offensive tackle. So is Nick Moore jumping in the boat? Are we benefiting because we're leading for David Sanders? Or do now we benefit because we've got Nick Moore trending to Tennessee and he can start to work on the big five-star offensive tackle? But again, we're talking about the On3 Elite Series going on down in Nashville. Awesome Price over at VolQuest sat down with George McIntyre. Great interview. Loved everything I heard. Kind of got a laugh because 8B kind of threw a wild card at him. He said, you players don't like crystal ball predictions. We got a couple right there from Ryan Callahan. But I'm going to put the shoe on the other foot. George McIntyre, who are you going to put in a crystal ball for Tennessee to land? Interesting question. We're going to break it down. We're going to go through each of the players that George McIntyre said he felt that Tennessee is going to land in the class of 25. Before we get into those players, do me a favor, smash the thumbs up just below the video. It's quick, free, easy. It helps the channel. Also, if you're new to the Talkin VAWLS Network, welcome. We're not experts here. We're not insiders. We're not media. We're not journalists. We're not reporters. We don't break news. We talk about the news. This channel is for the fans, by the fans. If you like what we do, make sure you subscribe, click that bell for notifications. You're not going to miss out when we go live or when we drop a video. Going to be live tonight, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, NCAA 14 revamped. We hang out, we play video games, but we also talk all things Tennessee. If you've never been a part of it, come hang out. I promise you'll have a good time. But let's jump into it. Who did George McIntyre say he would lock in the crystal ball for Tennessee to land? We're going to go in order. The first name out of his mouth, Shady Hayward, four-star safety out of Lyons, Georgia, 6'1", 196. You can see the profile just outside the top 100 according to the On3 industry rankings. On3 has him 82nd in the country. That's elite. That's an elite player. I love the interview with him coming out of 865 Live. They're asking, how the visit went. How are they recruiting him? Is Tennessee still the leader? He basically said, I'm just here to help Tennessee recruit. Shady Hayward locked in. Seems like he loves him some Tennessee. Now he's going to go through the process, going to take his official visits. Georgia is one team that a lot of people are concerned about. He will be visiting there this weekend, also going to take trips to USC and then Florida, and then he'll wrap things up with the official visits on June the 21st. You got to feel good about where Tennessee is at with Shady Hayward, a guy that is an elite safety, good size. Had a great conversation last night on the live stream. We interviewed Justin Baker, ball running back commit. If you missed that, go back, give it a watch. But we also talked a lot of recruiting, had the conversation about people saying that Shady Hayward could possibly add some size and move down to the linebacker position. What do you think about that? But let's jump into the next player. The first one out of the mouth was Shady Hayward, the second guy that George McIntyre said he believes he would put in a crystal ball to end up at Tennessee, and that is four-star offensive tackle Jalen Matthews, a guy that we talked a lot about on this channel. Had him come on and do an interview. Big-time prospect, a guy that went to Twitter after George McIntyre committed and say, hey, you need somebody to block for you? All of a sudden, things start picking up. He dropped his top six: Georgia, Maryland, Miami, Rutgers, Syracuse, and Tennessee. He was at one time committed to Penn State back in January of 2023, decommitted in September. Had a solid visit for Junior Day, right? Came in town, and that's where after the tweet, then he takes that visit. Then it seemed like a whole lot of momentum for Tennessee. Jalen comes in town for the orange and white game. continues to be all orange. VolQuest said Ohio State, Penn State, and Georgia are in the mix, but the Vols appear to be the team to beat. Now, it's been kind of quiet lately. Haven't heard a whole lot of news or buzz around Jalen Matthews because he hasn't been taking those visits. He's got his official visit scheduled coming up after his decision. He is scheduled to come off the board on June the 3rd. If you go take a look at his official visits, he's visiting Rutgers this weekend, and then he will make that decision on June the 3rd. Then he's going to visit Syracuse. I don't know that that visit to Syracuse is still locked in, but he is going to visit Tennessee and also going to visit Georgia. But again, scheduled to come off the board next week, June the 3rd. We're going to be covering it live right here on the Talkin VAWLS Network. We're going to go live at 1:15 p.m. Eastern time and take you all the way up to the decision for the big four-star offensive tackle. Of course, the main event, another guy that George McIntyre said, I believe, is going to be locked in, dialed in, and commit to the University of Tennessee, and that is five-star offensive tackle David Sanders, the guy that's getting all the buzz, all the momentum, all the talk. Again, kicked it off, hit things off with Nick Moore, four-star interior offensive lineman over the 865 live weekend. Of course, George has continued to peer recruit David Sanders. Coming out of 865 live, I made a video on it. Chad Simmons, Steve Wiltfong both asked if you had to pick now who you rolling with. Chad Simmons says Tennessee. I would lean Tennessee's direction if I had to name a school I hear the most buzz around heading into the summer. Steve Wiltfong doubled down, said the same thing. If I had to pick, I'm going Tennessee. I can still see this recruitment going a few different ways, but I like the way things are setting up for Tennessee. Again, George, peer recruiting, 865 Live. Now they're together at the On3 Elite Series event right now, or wrapping that up. So just building those relationships, when they asked George about it, and how he's peer recruiting David Sanders. Talked about the multiple visits, right? Not just to Tennessee, but also Alabama, Clemson, how they've talked a lot about playing together. We broke this down last night, looked at some of the comments from David Sanders over this past few days, and he gets giddy, man, when he talks about his relationship with George. Obviously, Ohio State's pushing. He's got a relationship with their quarterback as well, but I like where Tennessee is at. And George McIntyre said, go ahead and put in the crystal ball prediction for Tennessee to land David Sanders Jr. But let's talk about another guy putting in a crystal ball. George McIntyre has predicted Deshaun Brame to end up at Tennessee. Four-star tight end, 6'4.5", 225 out of Kansas. He's a guy that, Tennessee, this is the only tight end that they are willing to pair with Jack Van Dorsey in this class of 2025. He was in town back in March, got to spend time with Jack and also George. After that visit, Chad Simmons put out an update and said, even with Oregon being the trending school, Tennessee got him on campus, really impressed him. He likes Knoxville. He likes the pass-heavy scheme that Josh Heupel runs. He also been in touch with five-star quarterback commit George McIntyre. He was in town for the Texas A&M game last year. Look, Oregon is the team to beat here. They are the team to beat, but he's going to go through the process, going to take his official visits. Oklahoma on June the 7th, Tennessee on June the 13th, and then Oregon on June the 21st. He already took an official to Ole Miss back on April the 12th. Going to make his decision. Deshaun Brame coming off the board on June the 29th. We will also be covering that one live right here on the Talkin VAWLS Network. Now, one that I really like, and George McIntyre threw this one in here when AB asked him, who would you crystal ball to Tennessee? He said, we're going to go ahead and land Travis Smith, too, four-star wide receiver out of Georgia. Elite prospect, inside the top 100 overall. A guy that's set to come off the board on July the 13th. Again, another player that is at the On3 event with George right now. We're wrapping that up. Had the opportunity to spend time together, continue to peer recruit. Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, and Tennessee are in it, but everybody thinks that Georgia and Tennessee are right up there at the top, with Georgia probably being the team to beat. Can you get him out of the state of Georgia? Now, I was watching the interview with Travis Smith and VolQuest, and they were kind of talking about, the opportunity for young guys to play, for freshmen to play. They were talking about quarterbacks, and Travis Smith said Josh Heupel's always going to have elite quarterbacks. Rattled off Nico. And then, of course, George McIntyre. Didn't mention Jake Merklinger, but that's also a guy that's a gunslinger, that's a gamer, that's a competitor. George is going to have to work if he wants that starting job, because Jake Merklinger is going to put up a fight for it. But he talked about, the opportunity to play as a true freshman, and AP kind of with a wink and a nod said, you do realize if you get to play as a true freshman, it's not going to be George slinging you the rock. It's going to be Nico. And Travis Smith said it would be a dream come true to catch passes from Nico Iamaleava. Said culture is going to be a big part of this thing as he goes through the process. That's what he's going to be looking for on his official visits, is culture and fit. It's big for him. It's also big for his family. And I think Man, when we hear these kids talk about culture and they talk about family and that being the biggest part of it, if that's the case, I don't think it gets any better than Knoxville, Tennessee. I don't think it gets any better than Josh Heupel and what this coaching staff is building. And we had the opportunity to have Anthony Agamora on the show with his mom telling the story about their trip, their visit, what this coaching staff did to them and making it about family, wanting everybody there, wanting everybody to be a part of it. I don't think the culture and the family gets any better than Knoxville, Tennessee. Those are a couple. That was a fun one, man. George McIntyre, of course, having some fun with it. AP having some fun with it, saying, George, the spotlight's on you. Put in your crystal ball predictions. So that's what we're talking about. Shady Hayward, Jalen Matthews, David Sanders, Deshaun Brame, and Travis Smith. How would you feel about this class if George is right and those 5 guys end up at Tennessee? But that's going to do it for this one. Make sure you guys smash the thumbs up on the way out the door. Go check out the Talkin VAWLS merchandise, bonfire.com/store/Talkin VAWLS. I would greatly appreciate it. Hope to see you guys in the chat tonight, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, playing NCAA football, talking all things Tennessee football. And then June the 3rd, Jalen Matthews scheduled to come off the board. We'll be covering it live right here on the Talkin VAWLS Network. But that is going to do it for this one. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.